Gita. So this is wild because I've been listening to the Gita read on Spotify, just the verses. Like I've every night this week, I've listened to that before I go to bed while I'm kind of getting into the zone, and chapter 10 has been just blowing my mind. I mean, chapter 10 talks about the opulences of Lord Sri Krishna, and it is so wild, so wild. So I've been feeling a like a deeper connection and really more of a like taking this a lot more seriously, like a serious kind of thing is happening in the spirit world for me right now, because I'm trying to get initiated, I think is the next step, and so all these things, as I'm learning more, I'm just learning more, so I don't know if that helps.
Well, I think, like you said, it's been about the past week, you said, since you've been listening to Gita. I think
Every
that
day. Yeah.
I think that's not an accident because Gita is not a material thing. It's Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound and vibration that's eternal. It's that universal wisdom which exists. And so I think it's not an accident. I think that Bhagavad Gita's appearance, transcendental appearance in this world, reaches out to all living entities, but especially for anyone who's connected, who's made contact with Krishna, the Supreme Lord in his original form as Krishna. Yeah, so the beacon goes out, and you've picked up the beacon. I feel that way too. That was my experience today. I felt it so clearly that taking this past few weeks, meditating on Sharanagati, really prepared me for today. And then this morning, when I was also hearing some Gita narrations, and I felt that it's just like if you have a festival, any festival, and the festival, the holy name is our festival. The festival of the holy name is what Rupa Goswami describes. So just like if it's Christmas or I don't know, Hanukkah or whatever people celebrate, you shop for weeks before, you plan the menu, who you're going to invite, you set up the guest rooms or whatever you do to prepare, and then that wonderful feeling when it's go time and everyone's enjoying each other's company and the warm holiday, whatever the event is. In the same way, if we prepare, this is what I was experiencing today, that, okay, I really prepared. I knew Gita's coming in a few weeks, Gita Advent, and then preparing, taking that time every Friday to meet with everyone for the Japa session and thinking deeply about Sharanagati. It felt like this morning was like Christmas morning or whatever, just wake up and go time. There it is, Gita, and everything was ready. I was ready to receive it in my heart and more attentive and more connected. And, you're already warmed up, I guess. So that sounds like you too. For the past week, you've already been warming up and preparing without even realizing. But see, Chaita Guru, first Guru is in the heart. Sri Guru is a manifestation of Krishna himself. He's already in your heart and he already was instructing you and you were already listening and following. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like in my living in the trade that I do, being in the trades, doing iron work, it's a very dangerous job. And just there is a real seriousness. Like, I got into this and I was kind of like, oh, this is fun, but now there's a real seriousness to this where like I'm depending on the Lord for protection.
Wow.
I'm depending on the Lord to like get me through the day without like hurting myself or anybody else, on accident as the job goes, so and my whole thing has just changed so much. It's just the whole thing is just it's I'm a work in progress, but it's changing so much. I've become so much more compassionate towards my fellow coworkers. It's just the serious thing that's happening in the spirit. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jacob, and thank you so much for the insights, Manjari Didi. I can relate to that transformational feeling because I read Bhagavad Gita. My whole Krishna consciousness journey started with Bhagavad Gita, and it was fascinating because Yugala, Didi, and I were roommates, so we would have a question and we would be reading it together. And then the following page, excuse me, the following page, there will be an answer to our question. And it kept happening instance and after instance. And it's very, very mystical, like if it happened only once or twice, it would be fine. But what I've noticed over months and years is that every time you meditate on a question, you can just take Bhagavad Gita, pray to the gurus, Srila Prabhupada, to Krishna, meditate on a question, open any verse, and that verse would literally answer your question in a way that only you will understand. And a beauty about Bhagavad Gita is that the more you practice Krishna consciousness, the more realizations sprout within your heart, the more revelations come out from one single verse. If you meditate on exactly the same verse for a day, for the second day, third day, or you open it in the month after, in the year after, you really see it from a very different perspective. It's exactly the same verse, but you can see how your consciousness has changed over time. And it's fascinating because today, actually, yeah, I'd like to read the Bhagavad Gita translated by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, because I only read the Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and I'm very curious. I heard very interesting things that some of the truths are presented in a very confidential way, but also in a very simple way. So I don't know. Do you have any insights, Manjari? Maybe have you read
Yeah,
it?
actually, I was engrossed in everything you were saying. I'm right there with you on the same page. Yes, it reminded me, as you were speaking, it reminded me of an instruction that Gurudev said to me, which he had said to everybody, which was that in a darshan, I was there with another girl, younger girl, and I think she had just taken initiation or something, and he was giving instructions about sadhana and study, and he said, these two books, Bhagavad Gita and Jaiva Dharma, read again and again and again for your whole life. Just again and again and again. So it reminded me of what you were saying. And then Madhukar this morning, I shared on my personal Facebook page. I tried to share it in the Japa group, but I guess I made a mistake anyway. An incredible article by Param Gurudev, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. It was an article in the Harmonist magazine, I guess from the 60s maybe, or the 50s, 1950s, about Atmanivedana, which is Sharanagati, surrender. And he was saying along the lines of what you were saying, why is it, or how is it why Bhagavad Gita has that nature of constant revelation and depth and responsiveness? And he was saying it's because it's Krishna who's speaking it. And Krishna is Rasik Shekhar. He's the form of love and beauty. He's the source of love. He's the embodiment of all rasas, Akila Rasamrita Murti. So being the most expert, clever hero, a nayak, nayak, that he's the most expert in relationships and loving affairs, communication. Think of all that entails in a relationship. So communication is number one, right? So he said, he was explaining, this article is so cool. You guys have to read it. He just sent me the link, so I'll share it in the Facebook group. So he said, because Krishna is the expert beloved, supreme beloved of all, he's most expert in relationships, most expert at communication, and which means although Gita is general instructions for the whole world, for all time, it's universal, timeless, etc., he's so expert that if in that audience there's one person who's a beloved, who has a unique, everyone has a unique relationship, but if someone's like very near and dear, very close and intimate, Krishna can speak in such a way that no one else will catch the meaning, that he has something specifically to tell to the beloved person in the audience, but in such a way that no one else can pick up on it. And he does that with all the living entities. And so then he was explaining, especially those who are attached to his Vrindavan feature, original Krishna Shamsundar, and especially those, so all of the Vrajavasis, and then of all the Vrajavasis, those who are servants of the gopis, Radha and her gopis. So they are the most dear in the audience, and that in every verse of Gita, there are those messages as well. And our Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj's Gita publication, whereas Srila Prabhupada's Gita as it is he dedicates it in the beginning to Baladev Vidyabhushan, one of our acharyas. So that's mostly like taking that commentary and of course his own purports, his own commentary. And then Narayan Maharaj, our Gurudev's Gita, he takes the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So it enriches. It's actually essential. All are essential, and there are many, many more commentaries by every generation of acharyas, but they are not translated into English. They all have their time, right? So I think it's really beautiful that at least we have these. That's one, two, three or four that we have now. Saraswati Thakur's commentary as well, right? So yeah, when you're ready and when the time is right and you feel called, go for it. It's so beautiful. When I first opened that Gita, it actually resolved. It helped me so much. Like I find it incredibly complementary to the Gita as it is, because you can see then sometimes in Prabhupada's purport, I find the same thing where he'll leave like a little signal or a trail, like when you leave a trail for someone.
Yeah.
So sometimes throughout the purports, there's little like nuggets, and you're like, what does that mean? You have to meditate more, and if you follow those morsels, it just brings you deeper, draws you deeper in. When I first started reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary in the Gita that my Gurudev published, it just made me smile so much. It made me appreciate Krishna on the battlefield like I hadn't appreciated him before in that way. So in some of the shlokas, for example, I forget which one, but where Arjuna calls him O Keshava, it's just funny. It's sweet. It's funny. It's so personal. It's intimate. It reveals other sides of Krishna's personality, and it's especially helpful for anyone trying to really get situated firmly in the Vrindavan mood. For example, in that verse about Keshava, in the purport, one of his comments, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he said, the meaning of Keshava is he who's very expert at decorating the hair of his beloved. That was so nice. And then sometimes there's revelations in there about Arjuna and Krishna's relationship. Like he'll say, actually, in this verse, Arjuna is being sarcastic. Like in this verse, Arjuna is teasing Krishna, because that was their relationship before. They were very intimate friends, like that he could tease him or they could share anything. He was married to Subhadra, and they have so many relationships, Krishna and Arjuna. Anyways, sorry to go on, but yeah, those are the thoughts that come to mind as you're...
Very sweet. Thank you so much. And as you were speaking, the topic of Krishna's instructions being non-different from Krishna, Bhagavad Gita being non-different from Krishna, that's why it's so ever fresh. Like we keep chanting, and you never get tired of chanting in that sense. It's just ever fresh. And my Gurudev, he would say that if we want to get detached from Sanskritification and we want to get more situated in our sadhana and the bhajan, it's very important to hear, like we cannot just falsely renounce our life and our desires in this material world, but what we can do is develop that greed for hearing. And that's why, Jacob, I'm so inspired by you listening to Bhagavad Gita consistently every single day, because that's what essentially purifies you. And it kind of, there's no satiation in spiritual world. You just want more and more because Krishna is so sweet and sweet. And I would like to humbly ask you for the name of the podcast, or like where you're listening to Bhagavad Gita on Spotify, because there's so many and I'm curious which one you're using.
Yeah, I will try to find the link. I think I literally just went to Spotify and typed in Bhagavad Gita, just the verses, something like that, like verse only. And it was, I think it was like literally the first one that came up.
Okay. See.
It's the cover. It's like a picture of the cover of the original Bhagavad Gita. It's probably from the 60s, I would imagine. It's got like
Villain Gita.
yeah, it's got the little chariot, like Krishna's like bright turquoise blue. Jai.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is now that you mentioned that verses only. There is another website where we usually listen to Srimad Bhagavatam too, but I think they might have Bhagavad Gita as well. Oh yeah, they actually do. It's called Bhaktivedanta Vedic Library, and you can, but it probably doesn't go one after another, or maybe it does. I'm not sure. But you can also download it, verses only or verses and purports, and you can do selected chapters too. Yeah, I'll check if you can listen to the chapters just nonstop. Very interesting. Thank you so for sharing. I'll look it up.
Madhukar's doing live reading as well. This morning he did the first 6 chapters. In the evening time, the second set of 6 chapters. And then I guess tomorrow morning would be, it took like 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2.5 hours almost. He was reading Sanskrit English translation
Wow. That
on
is wonderful.
his YouTube channel. And there's so many things going on if you search in YouTube.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I think Yugala Didi, she sent me a video by Madhukar where he was reading about Atmanivedana in Bhagavad Gita by Srila Bhakti Keshav Goswami Maharaj.
Yes.
So it's like related to the
Yeah, Madhukar read out the article and I will send it in Facebook as well. Yeah. What about any other thoughts about Atmanivedana, Sharanagati, Atmanivedana, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur? How does it feel, your relationship with Bhaktivinoda in these past few weeks?
I'll let Jacob go first.
I don't really know. I've just been chanting my rounds, and I know that was the guy that you had played before, right? From the Saturday that I was able, or the Friday that I was able to make it, right? Yeah.
So he was in the 1880s and 1890s. He's like great grandfather, spiritual master, and so he has written so many beloved bhajans that we sing. So we were discussing like he had written a songbook called Sharanagati. So that's what we were reading, those bhajans, because those songs that he wrote are, or any bhajans, they're like nourishment to our Harinam Japa practice, a very powerful nourishment for chanting, because their moods of pure devotees kind of affect, and just like vibrations resonate, our heart can begin to resonate with a pure heart by hearing their words and contemplating it. And that is chanting with with that kind of mood, sincerity, and purity or focus is what brings the effects. Otherwise, we can chant for millions of lifetimes, but not be getting the real results that we hear about. We hear about amazing results of Harinam, but that has to come with some process.
Right. So I had found this bhajan called, I don't know if you can see it.
Huh.
It's called, here, I'll just read it.
Yeah, read it.
It's called Krishna Jinka Namahai. Namahai? Krishna Jinka Namahai? I don't
Hey,
know
you
if
can say hey.
hey, okay, Namahai. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but
Yes, a very traditional, beautiful Hindi bhajan. Yes.
yeah, so I printed it out and I wrote out like when you came over to Divya's house over the summer, I liked how you could hand out like everyone could like,
Okay.
so that's what I did for that song. I
Beautiful.
printed
What inspired you in this song?
so Raghunath had put out a little album of him singing songs, and this was one of the songs that just grabbed me. There's I'm not crazy about the whole album, but this one definitely grabbed me, and so I looked it up for myself and found that there's a lot of different versions. It does seem like a kind of an older song, but I've been practicing it, and I printed it out, and I was hoping maybe I could, like play it at one of the programs or something. But I don't know if this is one of the songs that Bhakti Thakur, right? That's his name, Thakur, right? Yeah. Is this one of the
Bhakti
songs that?
Vinod.
Yes, yes.
No,
And-
that's not one of his, but it's a
oh,
beautiful one and very beloved traditional bhajan.
yeah, yeah. So I've been kind of like doing it, like kind
What's
of,
so cool about that one is I think it's filled with so many pastimes. So remembering, as you're chanting Krishna's names, you're remembering all these different pastimes it describes.
yeah, yeah. There's the Sanskrit, which is the song, and then they also gave me a translation for all the pastimes in English for each verse. So it's like a pretty good translation of what each verse is saying. So yeah, yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that one.
That's awesome. I hope I hear you sing one day.
I'm a terrible singer too.
No, you're not. I heard you before with everyone. That's not true. That's not true.
My wife says I sound like Lou Reed when I sing.
I'm not familiar with Lou Reed, but I think that's a compliment, right? He's a famous singer.
Yeah, he was in the Velvet Underground, and
Oh, okay.
like she was like, "You're somewhere between early Bob Dylan and Lou Reed."
That's a
What a-
compliment, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. I encourage if when you feel attracted to a bhajan, I just think it's one of the most powerful ways to nourish and enhance our chanting. And then one bhajan will lead to another bhajan and just go deep into bhajan life, kirtan life. And it's alive. It's so powerful. Wonderful process.
yeah, yeah. I really think that kirtan is really one of the most important things. It is like so important. It's so important. It's it's something you got to take so seriously. And when it's kirtan time, it is kirtan time, and like you got to like stand up straight and just focus your mind on the Lord, and it's so sweet, so sweet. I've been in some good ones, and man, it will take you right out of here, take you right out of this world, and it should. That's what it should do. It should take you out of this world, you know. So
What it, yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Jacob. I do have a question. Where do you reside? Because there will be a festival in Miami at GVO. I'm not sure if you've been there before. Um,
You're in New York, aren't you? In
Yeah, I'm in Rochester. I'm in
Rochester,
Rochester,
right?
yeah.
okay,
And there is a crew of Rochester devotees.
okay.
Uh, we are really part and parcel with Oswego and Syracuse and Ithaca.
Mhm.
And Buffalo is really trying to do its own thing. And I don't know what's going on out there, but I know that they're kind of struggling. And we're all trying to get them, get them in the game with us. So
Mm.
it's basically upstate New York is where I live,
Oh,
Rochester.
nice. Yeah, there
Yeah.
will be a program too, middle of December, and in January, middle of December in Bogota, if you've been there before or if you've heard. I'm not sure how far it will be from you, but um, just in case you're interested in in coming and meeting new pieces.
Um, I am because Florida seems to be calling my name.
Yeah.
My aunt is going there, I think next week. She has a house there and she has given us like full, like, come on down, please come and stay with us. And I guess it's right in the middle of the state. So it's like 2 hours up to Ala, Alachua. Is
Yeah.
that it?
Alachua, yeah.
Alachua, yeah, sorry. I so it's like 2 hours from everywhere, basically, was what she was saying.
Mm.
So I think I guess there's a big devotee scene in Florida from what I
You'll
hear.
love it. Whenever you go, you're gonna love it. And visit Alachua, visit in Miami. There's many very inspiring things happening.
Now, Manjari, I thought you lived in Syracuse.
I'm based in Syracuse. I travel pretty much half the year, especially now that COVID's over, getting ready to go to India. Yeah. And then I'll be back in the spring, probably April.
Mm. Nice time
And
to avoid the cold weather.
Yes, something like that for the time
oh
being.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This has been really wonderful. Thank you for coming, Ananga and Jacob. Yeah, really wonderful. I find it so purifying and calming and auspicious to be with such beautiful people, such sincere seekers, beggars of the holy name.
Likewise, it's very nice to glorify um, the devotees and the Bhagavad Gita on a very special day. Today is also Ekadashi, so happy Ekadashi. Thank you so much for all your service and for your association. Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, Gaudiya Vaishnav Guru Parampara ki Jai, Shri Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Shri Ekadasi Vrat ki Jai, Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Haribo. See you next week, everyone. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.